And it's not just a package of sawdust. So, because we have heard that
Yeah,
in the industry, we've heard that
yeah.
some products are 99% sawdust, and you get a little bit of baker's yeast or something in there. So,
Hi everyone, I'm Callie,
and I'm Cole.
and welcome back to another episode of Doodie Calls.
Episode 6.
Something like that,
All
yeah.
right, all right. What are we talking about today?
So we're kind of playing off last video a little bit where we were talking about what you should and shouldn't flush,
Yeah.
touching a little bit on maintenance.
Mhm.
But in this video, we're going to talk about what maintenance actually is beyond pumping your tank.
Yeah, what it consists of, what you can do as a homeowner, what we do as service providers,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of maintenance that, yeah, should occur more frequently than just, well, you should pump your tank every 3 years, 3 to 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
but most people don't touch it for 15 plus
20.
years, 20 years. So, yeah, so what maintenance really consists of, and I think I'm going to break this down on like a daily basis, which we've discussed in depth thus far, but we'll kind of talk a little bit more about it,
Mm-hmm.
and then what you should do on a more regular basis, let's say every 6 months or every year, and then based on what you're doing that every 6 months or every year, then that'll kind of help determine how often you have the tank pumped.
Okay.
And to kind of preface this, maintenance is important. And we're not just saying that because we're service providers in the industry and because people
Mm-hmm.
pay us to come out and pump septic systems and install septic systems. That's not why we're saying this. Maintenance, it prolongs the lifespan of the system. So if you look at a septic system as a fixture, as a utility with your house, they have, as all fixtures or utilities, they have a kind of a finite lifespan. Water
Mm-hmm.
heaters, you can get a water heater to last 30, 40 years, but a lot of them go out in 10 years, and it's something that
Mm-hmm.
you have to replace.
Yeah.
Maintenance, I don't know if there's a lot of maintenance to be done on water heaters, but obviously like your HVAC system, your heater, your furnace, your air conditioner, there is maintenance associated with those, with replacing filters, on
Mm-hmm.
your AC unit outside, making sure that the coils are clean so that it can breathe. Otherwise, there's going
Yeah.
to be problems. There's maintenance with septic systems as well, and that maintenance can prolong the lifespan of the system. And so, instead of getting, we'll say, 10 years out of a system with proper maintenance, you should be able to get 20, 30, or 40 years out of a system. Now, that doesn't mean that certain parts of the system may not need additional work done.
Mm-hmm.
Tanks, we see a lot of tanks that are crack or they get corroded, or the sewer line starts getting a buildup in it of grease, or tree roots start infiltrating the lines, things like that. So
Right.
the maintenance on the septic tank and on the drain field may not necessarily prevent those things from happening, but usually, generally speaking, the most extensive part and the most expensive part of the system, and the part that takes the most work, is the drain field.
Okay.
And the drain field takes up the most space. It's the most expensive part of the system, and uh, it's the largest part, I guess. We'll just finish with that, or just kind of stick with that. But protecting the drain field usually is number one priority when it comes to maintaining a septic system. In addition to that, from like a homeowner's aspect, I'd say,
Mm-hmm.
being able to flush their stools every time they need to would be
Yeah.
a priority. So, and not doing any maintenance can obviously lead to backups, and lead to toilets and sinks not flushing or draining. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, to kind of kick it off, daily maintenance. What do we do daily maintenance wise? How do we
Mm-hmm.
maintain our system on a daily basis? And it really starts with the water usage and not flushing the wrong things. You know,
Right.
be not necessarily being conservative with your water usage, but if you're on a conventional system, spacing out your water usage to where you're not flushing, or
Mm-hmm.
flushing stools, taking long
Yeah, like we
showers,
mentioned
like
last
we've mentioned.
video. Yeah, just
Hmm.
not running all of your laundry at one time while
Yeah.
you're running your dishwasher, while you're taking a shower,
Mm-hmm.
things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. So, being mindful of your water use is probably the best way to say that. And then
Mm-hmm.
also, not flushing or not putting things that aren't supposed to be going down a drain into the septic system. So,
Right.
on a daily basis, it's really pretty simple. If you're mindful of your water usage and you're mindful of what you're putting down drains, your sinks, your toilets, things like that. That's about as much as that's needed really on a daily basis.
Mhm.
Every month you should record water usage. You should keep track of it, what your water meter reading is, so that way
Okay.
you know how much water you used in a month, 30-day period.
Sure.
That's just good information to have. And then you should also flush an additive, a good additive, not I'm not going to name any brands necessarily, but a good additive. We recommend something that's it's more of a professional grade additive.
Mhm.
Not not a store-bought commercial product that's off the shelf. Talk
Well,
to your local provider. Some people recommend against them. It's not a necessity, and I think that's going to be a further episode, another video, is the use of additives, things
sure.
like
But
that.
you mentioned, like your professional grade.
hmm
What makes one additive better than the other?
So if you have a local service provider, wherever you are, whether it's here in Kansas or anywhere across the nation, talk
Mhm.
to a reputable local service provider. They will either recommend against using one entirely, or given specific situations or specific circumstances with your system specifically,
Mhm.
um, they'll have a recommendation as to what is best.
Okay.
We have I'm going to call it a professional grade or commercial grade product, or a non-commercial grade product, that we order directly from I consider them very reputable
Mhm.
source, manufacturer of the product, and they've done a lot of research, much more than I ever will, most likely. They've done a lot of research as to the functions of systems, the type of
Mhm.
bacteria that's in systems, the enzymes, and everything that what survives in a septic tank environment. And it's not
Mhm.
just a package of sawdust. So, because we have heard that
Yeah.
in the industry, we've heard that
Yeah.
some products are 99% sawdust, and you get a little bit of baker's yeast or something in there. So
Mhm.
this is a better product than that based on all the research and data that they've provided. The stuff that we carry, and there's other products out there. A lot of different service providers, a lot of different regions, states. They're going to have their own recommendations and things like that. But
Mhm.
if you have or use an additive, just make sure that it's a good quality additive and not just something that you bought off the store, bought off the internet, from some place, random website or storefront. So talk to a service provider with an additive. But if you do have one, once a month, flush it down the toilet, put it down the drain, things like that.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Go.
I was just going to ask annually what you
hmm
would recommend annually.
So annually or every 6 months, it depends on the system. But speaking specifically to conventional gravity flow septic systems, where you have an anaerobic septic tank and a
Mhm.
subsurface absorption field, there are different requirements for alternative treatment units or aerobic systems. Not going to get into that today, just because where we are, we don't have a whole lot of those.
Mhm.
But for a conventional system, every 6 months or every year, typically once a year is sufficient. You want to have a inspection really performed on the system. Now, what that inspection consists of
Mhm.
would be number one, the visual condition of the septic tank at its operating level. So this needs to be done, as you're using the system under normal conditions. You
Okay.
open the both covers or the one cover, and you look at the system on the inside.
Mhm.
Now, when we open a system, before we pump it, when we inspect it, whatever, the first thing that we're looking for is the water level inside the tank,
Okay.
which is why I said this needs to be done during normal conditions.
Mhm.
The water level inside the tank tells us a lot. It can tell us the condition of the tank. Tank's full of water or wastewater. Can't really see down at the bottom, but depending on where the water level is, we could determine if there's a potential for a crack in the
Okay.
tank where the tank's leaking, or if the drain field is having issues. If the water level is higher than it should be, the
Mhm.
drain field's having issues. Either water's not getting to the drain field or the soil's not absorbing it. We can tell a lot just from the water level, and kind of, like I said, if the water level's below where it should be, then the tank's probably leaking, because it shouldn't be at that point.
Right.
Tanks maintain a normal operating level, and so if it's below that, there's a potential for the tank to be cracked or it's leaking or something else is going on. And then if it's above that, then water's not getting out to the field. So first thing we do is we look at the water level.
Okay.
The next thing we do is we make sure that all of the components, your baffles, your risers, your lids, your manhole covers, things like that, are in proper functioning operation. I mean, they're working, they're there, they're not damaged, they're not broken,
Okay.
things like that. We also look to see if the tank is corroded above the water level, if there's any tree roots that are getting into the tank, if there's grease or anything like that that's being built up around the baffles or around the edges of the tank or on the surface.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll take a sludge level measurement. So again, we've talked about total accumulated solids before, but the purpose of the tank is really a filter for the wastewater to the field. And
Mm-hmm.
so we want to measure the total accumulated solids. And you should have your tank pumped once that total accumulated solids amounts to 25% or 25 to 33%. But if you're at that 22 23% range, we'd probably recommend having that tank pumped, but that will also be dependent upon what the measurement was the last time you took that measurement.
Okay.
If it's the first time you've ever had that measurement done and it's at 22 23%,
Mm-hmm.
we don't know how long it took you to get to that point.
Sure.
So we would probably say, okay, let's pump the tank now. We come back in a year and we see what it's at. And if it's at 10%, then we know that we're using 10% every year.
Okay.
And so you'd need to pump your tank at least once every 3 years.
Okay.
Because after 3 years, you'd be at 30%, which is still within that buffer of the 25 to 33%. But you don't want to exceed 1/3 capacity of the tank of a total accumulated solids, excuse me. So sludge level measurement, and then we would walk around the area of the drain field.
Okay.
We want to make sure that wastewater isn't surfacing effluent. We also want to make sure that it's not we're not getting any odors, any gases, things like that. If there's inspection ports at the ends of the lines, we'll pop those covers. We'll make sure we can notate or kind of see where the water level may have been in the future if it were higher than the pipe. That could happen during surge flows where you use a lot of water at one point. The drain field doesn't absorb it as quickly, so it rises, and then it goes back down, which would basically say that the drain field is working. It's absorbing the wastewater. It just wasn't absorbing it at whatever point that water got high. It wasn't absorbing it as quickly as it was being introduced at that point.
Okay.
So that's really annual basis. Yeah. Inspect the tank, make sure that all the components are there and that they're functional, make sure that there's no signs of damage or corrosion or tree roots or grease, and then take a sludge level measurement and the water levels in the tank.
Okay.
That really kind of sums it up for what should be done on an annual basis.
As far as that inspection goes, I know at least some places or some properties around here also have a well. What do you suggest for that?
If you have a well and you're also on a septic system, most people with wells, they don't have water meters, so you don't know how much water is going into the system on a monthly basis. If you have a well, I'd recommend installing a water meter for one, something that will tell you how many gallons you use in a certain period, and record that monthly as well. That way, that's just good information to have. If you do start developing problems, us as service providers can look at that and say, okay, well, we're averaging X amount of gallons of water per day. This is what the system's sized for. And if it's greater or smaller, then that can kind of help us determine what the best solution would be. Also, if you have a well, get your well water tested, especially if you're drinking out of the well water. I know some places have rural water that's connected to the house, but then they have a well that's for like watering their lawns, things like that.
Sure.
That probably wouldn't be necessary to have a meter or get tested unless you're using it for drinking water. But if you are using it for drinking water as well, get the water tested. That's just a safe practice. That's recommended, I think, most places. When you sell a house and you have a system inspected, at least here in Saline County with a well, they test it then. But I would extend that and say to have it tested once a year when when the inspection or the maintenance visit on the septic system is performed.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's really the gist of what is needed on an annual basis or every 6 months, just kind of depending. The other thing is at least once a year. This could be done more frequently, anywhere from monthly to every 6 months to quarterly or whatever.
Okay.
If you have an effluent filter, that needs cleaned. I know when we install them, we generally say, once every time the time changes, so about every 6 months,
Okay.
daylight savings time.
Sure.
That way it's kind of easy to track, or the first of the year, in the middle of the summer, something like that. But clean the effluent filter if you have one. If you don't, that thing's going to get clogged up. Water's not going to get to the field. Water level in the tank rises, and you may have problems flushing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then when that happens, obviously that is a big ordeal. So,
Yeah.
and you got to pump the tank down to be able to clean the filter. Otherwise, you kind of negate the purpose of the filter. If the water
Right.
level's above it and you've got a lot of suspended solids,
Yeah.
you're going to be sending all those to the field. So, we do recommend filters. I think they are fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot to keep the stuff out of the drain field that's not supposed to be there,
Yeah.
and they can really lengthen the lifespan of a drain field. It reduces the strength of the effluent, especially in the TSS, the total suspended solids,
Okay.
because it's trapping all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It also, like I said, it keeps the trash, the stuff that's not supposed to be in the field, out of the field, which is going to reduce the biomat. It's going to make the soil work a little bit better. It's going to keep that
Mm-hmm.
oxygen in there. So they're really, really good, but they do need cleaned.
Yeah.
They do need cleaned. We have seen several times what happens if you don't clean them, and it's not a pretty sight. So, um, yeah, that would kind of be. I would say you could do that if you have a filter at least once a year, but every 6 months or quarterly would be probably better. That's really situational. If it needs it more than once a year, definitely clean it more than once a year.
Okay.
But if you have one, at least once every 12 months should be cleaned. So,
Sure. Okay.
what else?
Well, I mean, I think that's kind of the gist of this video, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think we've got going on for next week?
Oh, what should we talk about? We've got so much stuff to talk about. We do. We have tons of ideas. Trying to figure out which one's best, and how to make a video out of one is
Yeah.
sometimes difficult because there's just tons, and I honestly I kind of get overwhelmed looking at all of them. We have several for portables. Still, I don't want to focus too much on the portables and leave septic.
I mean, especially right now. I mean, it's not like it's really event season.
For us, no.
Yeah.
Some places it is.
Well,
If you're in
not
Florida or Texas, I know
not in
there's
the
a lot of
middle of
stuff going on,
Kansas,
but
so.
no, it's cold
With a
today.
high of 8, or no, there wasn't a high of 8. It was 8 this morning.
Yes,
and
it
it
was
felt
8 this
like
morning.
-5. I'm not meant for this. But
anyways, I would say next weekend, we could talk about the additives. That's going to
I
take a
think
little
we
bit of
should,
research.
a little bit.
There's a lot of conflicting opinions. There's a lot of conflicting data
With everything.
with
yeah.
additives.
But
I have a position on them that not everybody agrees with in the industry. I know, and that's just part of it. I have a position on it, and other people have positions on them. Obviously, the manufacturers have certain positions on them.
mm-hmm.
I might reach out to a couple manufacturers of, professional grade, good quality
Sure.
additives,
Yeah.
and talk to them. We might be able to incorporate some of their research, some of their data. I think that'd be good to have.
There's actually been a couple people I've been in contact with. I could ask them.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we'll probably talk about additives. I'll talk to some other people in the industry too, and kind of get their opinions, and I might, talk to them and see if they want to put in quotes.
Okay.
And then would also like to get Dominic on here soon.
That'd be a lot of fun.
And we also want to bring in one of our county representatives, the sanitarian, one of the sanitarians with Saline County. He covers Saline, Ellsworth, and Lincoln counties.
Mm-hmm.
The other sanitarian does Saline and Ottawa counties, because those 4 counties are all kind of governed out of Saline County. They have their own unique little quirks in their code, but all governed out of Saline County. And talk to them about what goes on during a septic inspection, what goes on during an installation, a permitting process, things like that. I think we could probably do, buying a house with a septic system, or selling your home with a septic system, and what all it entails, what's required, what needs to be done, and why it gets done, why it's important to have that stuff done. So, because I know we've ran into situations. We were dealing with one just earlier this week where somebody bought a house and there was no inspection done on the system, and the system is beyond
repair.
Yeah, it needs a whole new system. And had the inspection been done at the time of buying the house, that probably would have solved a lot of the issues that homeowner is dealing with right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there would have been, they would have had stuff before in terms of information, they
Right.
would have had information on what it's going to take to replace the system, cost estimates, sizing, all that kind of stuff before they bought the house. And so, and
Yeah.
that may have influenced how they bought the house, how they made the offer, whether they bought the house or not. You know, it
Absolutely.
could influence those kinds of things. But now, they own the house and they're kind of stuck with either their toilets don't flush very well or spending, however many thousands of dollars to get it fixed. So
Right.
those kinds of things are important. Very important. Even if you're
Mm-hmm.
buying a house as is, at least here in Saline County, you have to have the inspection done
Regardless.
regardless. It may not change the fact that the buyer's responsible for it since they're buying
Sure.
as is.
I mean,
Um,
it's good to know what you're getting
but
into,
at
though.
least you know what you're getting into. That's right. So we'll talk about that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think next week we'll look at additives and then maybe, like I said, get Dominic on here and
Yeah,
get
be a lot
Sean
of
on
fun.
here. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. So
Mm-hmm. Oh, also, in other news,
yes,
check this out.
totally forgot about it. But
Yeah, it's
we
new.
got a new sign.
It's fun. We finally got our sign in.
Yes, you
I'm
ordered that
really,
like 6 weeks ago, right?
yeah, well, it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
They did a good job,
So
though. I'm excited about it.
So, and we're trying to build a new shop, so we might have a legitimate podcast room, or
That
is
would
this
be
podcast?
nice.
Everybody calls
Well,
it a podcast.
well, I don't know what it is, but
We'll have
I
a
would,
legitimate room
I
with
would love
some nice
that.
furniture and
This whole setup, I might have to show you guys what you
how we
see
do this.
compared to what we see.
Yeah.
Because this is taking up like half of my office right now.
Yes.
Which is fine.
Yes.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you guys for watching.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hope this was educational. If you have any
Mhm.
questions regarding maintenance, reach out to us. Do we have those flyers or brochures made with what maintenance plans are, what it consists of?
I'm working on them.
Working
I'm
on
about
'em?
halfway through. I'm really bad about making something and then I hate it, so then I have like 15 different variations of the same thing. So it's almost done. I'm
Yeah.
sure I have some that would be fine. I just personally would like it to be a little different.
That's fair.
So.
So, but if we do get those done, obviously we'll push those out and post those up on all the social media accounts and Google and
Include
everything.
them in the video.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get those up here sometime in the future, and that just kind of shows what we do when somebody gets set up on a maintenance plan with us. I'll just kind of show what we do, what the value in the maintenance plan is. So, anyways,
yeah. But yeah,
thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you again next week.